Cool. All right. What's up, guys? I'm so happy everyone joined in. Within this next, 20, 30 minutes, we're really just going to try to provide as much value as possible. Because I know you guys have schoolwork. I know you guys, want to get to bed. So, really what this Zoom call is going to be all about is, just the five keys that we brainstormed together, me and Ryan, to just have a successful season. And I want this to be more so of a conversation. So like I know there might be, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 people in the Zoom call. Like feel free to like, take the mic off or talk whenever you want, because really this I don't want it to be a lecture. I want it to be like an open communication. Um, without being said, you all know me. My name is Evan Sirakis from NYC Hoop School. We also have Ryan here from Grind City Training. That'll be bringing value to you guys as well. Ryan, if you want to say anything.
What's up, boys? Excited to be here. I'm really excited about today's topic because it's one I feel very passionately about. And that's making sure that during the season we don't take a break from the skills training or the strength training, and we do everything in our power to make sure that we have a great season. So Ev is going to dive in a little deeper to that. But this is something that I really wish I knew as a high school player because, I kind of did just the opposite where I would train, season came, and now it's like, okay, I'm just practicing and playing games. I don't need to be doing anything extra. Um, and I believe because I had that mindset, I left a lot on the table as far as my success went at the high school and college level. So it's a great topic tonight, boys. Let's get to it.
Awesome. All right, cool. So let's dive into this. First thing, so Um, key number one is being a leader. And just to open up, if anyone wants to just step up, I want to know what being a leader means to you guys, because for me, as someone who's still in my college season, I look at being a leader as someone that can set the tone, someone that's always bringing the energy 24/7, someone that's always communicating with the coaches. So if anyone wants to step up here, I would love to hear someone's perspective of leadership, and if you are a leader for your team, how you step up. If anyone wants to step up here.
You could be a leader for your team. Like if you're a point guard, especially on the court, like you have to talk, you have to be loud, like call the plays by yourself, let your teammates know, like the subs coming in, like what defense you're in, what offense you guys are running. You just have to be really talkative. Like you have to control the game.
I love that, Nathan. I love that. Anyone else have something to say with it?
What?
You have to pick up your teammates when they're like missing your shots, and you gotta to me, I'm on JV right now, so I'm like the team captain. So to me, I gotta like talk to the coaches a lot. I gotta communicate with him, and I gotta like so I gotta basically follow up with the boys and ask them what's going on and check them up. And during practices, we gotta I gotta tell them like where to run, and during like running plays and shit, we gotta talk a lot. So yeah, like
I love
leadership is
that,
like
James.
talking and yeah, and picking
I
someone
love that,
up.
James.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Jack, I saw you got your mic off from before.
Oh yeah, I think you should be able to like make sure like no one's like taking the ball too much or something, or like just being too aggressive and making sure like everyone wants to play and like scoring efficiently and scoring like the best pace you can.
I love that. I love that. So everyone gave their own perspective and their own ideas about leadership, and none of you were wrong. And I think all of you had great ideas. Just one thing that I could say that, from piggyback on of it is, leadership is going to be different for everyone, right? So if a couple of guys talk, everyone had different insights on leadership. Well, your role on a team as a leader might be different from someone else's role. So for example, like let's say you're a starter on a team, you're the leading scorer. The way you'll lead your team is going to be different than if you were, the seventh or eighth guy off the bench. There's nothing wrong with that leadership. It's just you're both going to be different leaders. And the point that I'm trying to make here is how this key could tie back to having a more successful season is you should immediately be thinking about how you can step up as a leader for your team. Maybe it's being the most vocal in practice. Maybe it's being the one that's bringing the most energy. You're going to be the guy that communicates to the team. Whatever it is, you have to find a way to step up as a leader, because the more leaders that are on a team, the more successful teams are, period. Ryan, do you have anything to piggyback off that one?
Yeah, there's really no one specific way to be a leader. There's multiple ways you can lead. Obviously you can lead from the bench, cheering on your teammates, making sure everyone is bought into the game plan, just doing the right type of things off of the court all goes into being a leader. And really just being an effective communicator, I think, is one of the best qualities of a leader. Just being able to communicate. Obviously, like if you're out on the floor, you got to be communicate what's going on. Screen coming left, we're switching. I'm help side, stuff like that. But even just outside of the game too, like communicating with teammates, like, yo, I'm getting in the gym early tomorrow. Like, if you want to pull up and get some shots up, pull up. You know what I'm saying? Little things like that are like the little ingredients that I think make a great team. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of ways you can step up and be a leader. You got to just find your role and what way is going to be unique to you.
And even just a side note of that too, like you just mentioning that, one leader, all it takes for a team is just one leader to step up, and then one leads to two, two leads to four. One thing that I'm like seeing, especially with my team, is just like, we didn't have like a great culture for my college program, just like getting guys in the gym. And like now that the season started, like as someone that like I told myself that I would step up, now all of a sudden there's someone that beat me to the gym. Then there's another guy that's like, oh, okay, now let's get an extra workout in. And it's contagious and it spreads.
Yeah.
And it more than just your team, but your coaches see that as well. And it will help you all get more minutes. So stepping up as a leader is a huge first key. And I love starting off with that leadership.
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions on that, or we could keep moving? Cool. Let's keep rolling. Okay. So key number 2, this is a huge one. You've got to understand your role, and you have to understand your role early. Here's what I mean. Some of you guys just had tryouts. Maybe you had a scrimmage already. You're going into your games. You have to know what your role is on your team, and then you have to find a way to excel within that role. Meaning there's not going to be 5 scorers on a team. It's just how a team works, right? Most teams might have a scorer. Another guy might be the guy that knocks down open shots. Maybe your role is to be a great defender. Maybe it's to do a little bit of everything. Be the rebounder. Whatever it is, you have to define a role for yourself. Know that's what your expectation is going into every single practice and game. And you have to find a way to excel on that. And now with that being said, once you understand your role and you can provide that, when the coach thinks about you come game time, he's going to be like, we need a shooter. And your role now is providing value to the team. Or you're playing a really good team with a great score. Let me call on his name. He's a great defender. Defining your role and knowing what your role is going to help you find time on the floor and get more college looks as well. The thing that I also want to on top of that is, by defining your role, you also now know what you need to be working on in your workouts during your season. So for example, if you were that shooter, right, you're a shooter, that's your role. Well, when you get into workouts, you could work on the exact game shots you get so that when the game time comes, you're prepared. Same thing if maybe you come off ball screens a lot. You come off ball screens a lot, that's your role, that's what you're working on. So defining your role, knowing that you have to work within that role, and then now even on top of that, communicating that role with your coaches is going to be a huge key to all help you have a successful season. Ryan, you want to piggyback off that?
Yeah. Knowing your role is big, man. And you got to understand, when you're in front of college coaches, they're looking at so much more than just, can you put the ball in the basket? Can you, play hard? They're looking at, all right, who is this kid? Like, how is he interacting with his teammates? How is he interacting with his parents? How is his relationship with his coach? Is he coachable? Um, there are, and then they're studying little details about your game, like how hard does he play on every possession, not just on the offensive end, or does he rebound? Is he willing to dive on the floor for a loose ball? You know what I'm saying? They're looking at little things like this. They're really like, it goes beyond just who you are as a basketball player. They're looking more as like, who is this individual as a person, and would I want him to be a part of my culture? You know what I'm saying? So you can't just, when you're thinking about playing at the next level, you can't leave any stone unturned. You have to pay attention to so many details, and just making sure you are the best version of yourself when you step on the court, both mentally and physically.
I love that. And one thing I wanted to add to that too is in order for you to excel within your role, there's a lot of things that go into it, right? So like, Ryan mentioned a few things where it's like being the hardest working player on the floor, or it's excelling within it. And if you want to excel within that role, a huge part of that is gaining confidence from your teammates and your coaches. And that happens through what you're doing in practice and the communication with them. So, for example, we talked about defining that role, knowing what it is. Well, your teammates need to know your role as well. And of course, the coaches are going to know your role too. And so, like, especially as the season goes along, some of you are a little bit early, defining that role early and then eventually expanding it, having that communication is going to be huge. Now, with that being said, I actually wanted to get a few examples from the group about what your role is for your team. And then let's use that as an example of how we can apply it back to the season. So if anyone wants to step up, talk about their role, we'll use you as an example, and we'll talk about a few things.
I mean, tryouts for my school, like we're not done. We have 3 more days left, but
Okay.
like so far, cause I know I'm like one of the shortest kids on the court. I try to go as more as like the talkative point guard, trying to set everything up, and I know like my big is 6'5". I know he can post up. I know I can throw the ball up to him and try to set something up. And if he gets doubled, he knows that I'll be around him or close to him, ready to shoot or just restart the offense. So I've taken like that role of more like just setting stuff up for others. And obviously, if I could do something for myself, I will do it. But yeah.
Okay, so perfect. So you're a playmaker, right? You're really more so a playmaker on the floor that's looking to dish. So now that you know like that's your role, okay, think about how you can develop it, right? So first thing I could tell you is watch a guy like Steve Nash, right? It sounds like you're a little undersized, right? You're making plays, you're delivering the basketball. Well, watch a ton of Steve Nash. Go on YouTube, watch a lot of Steve Nash, watch his highlight, watch how he operates. Just from watching him play, you're going to just subconsciously start developing some new ideas that you could bring back to your game. So film was a great way to utilize that. Next thing you could also do is also now develop a skill that'll help you make more plays for your teammates. Maybe it's you coming off pick and roll. Maybe it's you coming off dribble handoffs. Maybe it's you having like a go-to move that'll help you get it to the lane more often. Things like that, developing deep depth within your role is going to help you get more results. Does that make sense to you a little bit, Nathan?
Yeah. I think
And
I
like,
think like I'm trying to I think right now I'm just trying to focus on like I think pick and roll is probably the best because it's always like because he's like really good at positioning himself down the post, so I'm always able to get him like a good lob, and I think that's like the best thing that I could perfect right now.
that's awesome. And even like tying everything together too. So it's like, all right, you understand that you're a good playmaker. You understand you have a nice big man. Maybe that's where the communication comes in with your coaches. Be like, hey, let's play off some pick and roll. So now you're having that communication with your teammate. You're having that communication with your coach. You understand that for yourself, you're a playmaker. Now look at your team is starting to gel a little bit. Now your role is now providing. Now that you understand your role, you're able to provide more value and enhance that value through that understanding. Does that kind of make sense to everyone? That's the point that we're really trying to make here is just like that understanding of your role and that communication of your role is a complete game changer that'll help you all get more results. Maybe we could do one more if someone wants to step up about what their role is.
I want to do it because
Let's get it.
I'm a shooting guard and I'm a starter, and my point guard is like really small. He's like, I don't know, like 5'2", 5'3", I guess, but he's really short, so he can really run shooting guard. But the thing is, I'm not gonna be like a big man who can like like dominate the paint. I'm not gonna be the shooter. I have Declan as my shooter this year, and I have my point guard. So I'm like a shooting guard, and I feel like I'm like one of those playmakers. I'm like in between a playmaker and a shooter. So who do you recommend? Like, who do you recommend me watching films on? Like maybe like Klay Thompson or like Dwayne Wade, someone like
Yeah.
that, who's like cutting a
Um,
lot and like who has the ability to make plays
yeah.
and stuff like that.
So two things. Number one is find a playmaker that closely resembles your game. And then also find a shooter off the ball that you could watch as well. So for the shooter off the ball, maybe you could watch Steph Curry moving without the ball. You could watch Klay Thompson moving without the ball. I don't know. You could watch, Devin Booker moving without the ball. Now you've got a lot of people that you watch move without the ball. Then you can start watching guys like Darius Garland. He's one of my favorite guys to watch of just how he attacks. I have a similar like body to him, so I like watching Darius Garland. I think that would be valuable to you too. Maybe you could watch a guy like Jalen Brunson, how he plays off 2 feet. It's more so not just like who you should watch, but it's just like picking someone, sticking with them, and just analyzing kind of what they do. And just doing that and watching those guys and being able to set those little goals for yourself as you get back to the season is going to be huge. Now, with that being said, you talked about moving without the ball. It's literally going to come down to you, James. Like what shots you're getting in games, just rep them out like crazy and make them when it comes. It's as simple as that. But does that make sense to you, James, a little bit?
Yeah, I feel you.
I know we could probably talk about it for like 30 minutes, but just like a brief overview, if you guys could just early understand your role and understand how you can improve on your role as the season progresses, you're not only just going to be building throughout this year, but you'll also be building towards next year as well. But okay. If anyone has any questions on that, we could talk about it a little bit more, but we can move on to key number 3. Cool. All right. So key number 3. This is one of my favorites. It's kind of a nice little segue. Developing your IQ as the season goes along. So key number 3, developing your IQ. Who here watches film? Who here, does anyone have a daily film routine? I see your hand up, Lorenzo. Anybody else, if you want to throw up a thumbs up or you want to speak up or
I watched JP and Jaylen Brown a little bit.
I like that.
Not every
Cool.
day, but like pretty much every other day.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you all from right now, especially as high school players, you should watch film every single day, period. I'm sure Ryan could attest to that as well.
Yeah, watch film. And if you could watch film of yourself playing, that's probably the best.
Yes, 100%. And there's 3 parts of film that I really wanted to emphasize to you guys. Number 1 is watching your role. So like we just talked about before, understanding your role. But once you understand your role, you could pick those few players that are like, yo, I'm watching him. So for example, for me, I know my role is I play off a ton of pick and roll. I'm nonstop watching Chris Paul, Steve Nash, John Stockton, so that when game time comes, my decision making is feeling sharp. Boom, I'm able to perform. Same thing for you guys. You got to understand your role. Find a player that most fits your games. Watch them. Watch them before your games. Watch them the morning of your games. Try to watch them throughout the day, throughout the week, whatever it is. Watching that film is going to be huge. The second thing that I think is huge is preparing for other teams, right? So like we're talking about developing your IQ. Well, you want to make better decisions on the floor. Your preparation of teams is going to be huge for you. So if you're playing St. Francis Prep in a week, right, watching their previous games, game changer. Same thing if you're playing, Bayside High School, right? Preparation for teams is going to be a great way to develop your IQ. And the third thing is, like Ryan just mentioned, is watching your own film. With that being said, I wanted to share with all of you a system that would really help you throughout your season. And I think you could implement right away. So when watching film, I created this system last year. And to me, it's been unbelievably valuable. So it's actually, I have like this huge deck of index cards. It's 1 index card per game. So I don't know if you guys see this, like I could pull up literally any game. So let's say it's game number 12 versus Farmingdale. right? So like I literally have 25 index cards from all 25 games that I played. And with these index cards, I not only was able to look back throughout the season and see what I did right, see what I did wrong, see what I did well, whatever it is. But now that I look back, I was able to use this from my season to see how I should attack my off season. And it's kind of like setting out the foundation. And here's what the system is. So it's you got two sides to an index card, right? So you got a front side, you got a back side. Now, I'm sure you guys probably aren't able to see this, but I'll pretty much break it down. The way I break it down is this. On the front side, you have positives, negatives, and goals for next game. Only 3. So you find 3 positives from the game, 3 negatives from the game, and 3 goals for next game. So for example, I'm looking at this card right here. It says positives. Great defensive plays. I had 3 steals and a charge. Another positive I had was I was very aggressive offensively from start to finish. I only had 2 positives from that game. Awesome. Negatives, it says here, I said I forced too many shots, too many contested layups. I played a little bit selfish and I didn't look to make plays. That was a negative. Then I had goals for next game. Let the game come to you. Be a true point guard. Look to get 5+ assists and get to my pull up more often. Right off the bat, I was able to reflect on my past games, see my positives, see my negatives, but then also set a few goals for next game so that now I could key in on. You guys following me with this a little bit? Cool. Then on the back side, I have all my stats. So I put it up as points, assists, turnover, steal, charge, whatever it is. And I also write down, okay, I was 1 for 3 from 3-point. I was 2 for 4 from layups. Even deeper, I say which layups I took. Same thing with my assists. I write down each and every assist, where my assists came from. Same thing with my turnovers, where my turnovers came from. So as you can see from this index card, I've got my positives, negatives, goals for next game. Back of this index cards, I've got my stats and where they came from. I want you to imagine now that throughout your full season, you do this for every single game. What are you going to notice? Well, number one, you're reflecting on every single game you play, right? So each and every game, you're finding things that you need to improve upon. Second thing is now your season ends, you could look back and be like, okay, man, 10 out of 15 games, I noted 10 out of 25 games, I noticed that I wasn't making my floaters. That's something I got to work on this season. Having a system of how you should be watching your film will keep you consistent and keep your improvement going. And for me personally, like looking back, like using a system like this, I've seen it tremendously improve my game. And I know for a fact that if you guys started this young as high schoolers, it would be insanely valuable to you too. Ryan, if you want to follow up on that one.
I think that's awesome, dude. I think I really like that setup a lot. I think the biggest thing with watching film is you got to be honest with yourself. Like, because the film don't lie, right? Film don't lie. So like really the main point of watching film is you're trying to find your weaknesses. Because ultimately, until you can attack those weaknesses, you can't really get better. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to know, what am I doing wrong? Like, let's say you had 4 turnovers. Where did those turnovers come from? You know what I'm saying? Maybe there were people open and you were just missing them. So that means there's certain parts of the floor you're just not seeing in certain situations. So now that's a skill you can work on. Like, all right, if I come off this high ball screen, there's going to be someone open in the weak side corner. So I got to get good at passing with my left hand in order to get it there. Like, you find little things like this, it goes such a long way. And I also like that you took positives out of it as well. Because that is obviously something we don't want to do either, is just only focus on the negatives. So I think that's a great way to watch and assess film. And everybody here listening, I would definitely try that out.
Yeah, man, dude, I got to tell you, it's been an absolute game changer for me. And I think, especially for a lot of guys, I think you made a great point of like being vulnerable and like accepting your weaknesses. That was something that I know, like I struggled with, especially early on, but also too, like, you all need to be evaluating every single decision you make. Think about it. Like when you're talking about legit development, you should be evaluating everything you do. Meaning, so you get on the floor, every single time you touch the ball, that needs to be evaluated. not just if you made or missed a shot or you got an assist or you didn't, but what plays did you miss? So you came off a drive. Yeah, you might have missed a layup, but did you miss a kick out? Same thing defensively, right? You can see on the defense side of the ball, oh, my man didn't score, but how was our weak side? So watching that film and evaluating all the decisions, imagine how, Ryan, you mentioned this, like everything is going to build on that, right? Like all of you are 14, 15, 16. You're freaking young. For most of you guys think your career has started. Your career really might just be taking off if you're going to be playing in college and even further. So like you got to realize like everything you're doing right now, you're just building, right? And so by you watching film, having a system of how you watch film, evaluating every single decision you make, well, imagine what you're going to be 5 years from now if you do that for every single game. You're going to be an elite decision maker. You're going to feel hella confident. You're going to know what your game is. You're going to understand your role. Think about it. You're writing everything you're doing. You're understanding how your game is. It's something you could build upon. So watching film, developing your IQ is an absolute game changer. And it's one of the most important keys we're going to be talking about, guys. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question about the
What up,
films.
man? What's up?
What's up? Basically, I'm a shooting guard,
Okay.
but I'm 6'3", so
Nice.
I'm pretty like I'm undersized for like pro basketball. I understand it, but I'm 16, so I'd say like I'm average / oversized for like my age. And
Okay.
so what I tend to do like is shooting. I have a consistent shot, pretty consistent shot, but I also like to like drive to the basket, you know.
Nice.
So basically, I changed my game a lot in the past like 2.5 years because I'm from Italy, and so I was playing a really like I didn't have like really tough competition. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm having my junior year in Maine, and so yeah, I'm at my team, and we're gonna have the tryouts in like a week. So I started watching films. So since I didn't have like a lot of competition, like my opponents were also like really really short. And so I would play as like a small forward or like a power forward. So I was just like taller than the other kids. But then growing up, I started playing like some seniors like leagues, like of people like 25, 30 years old. I grew up a lot of them like in them. And of course, like my growth like slowed down. So now that I'm 6'3", I'm a shooting guard, and I started like watching like and studying like Jordan Poole. So a lot of Garland, James Harden, and but also like players from like college and high school too. I don't know if you know like what OTE is, overtime
Yeah.
elite, the new program.
Yeah.
I started watching a lot of it too. Last year it was just like a year and a half years old.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask like, what do you think is better to watch? Like high pro basketball now as a high schooler? Is it better to study pro basketball, high school basketball, college basketball, both? Because like, they're really different if you think about it, especially college basketball from high school and the NBA.
For me personally, I would stay away from high school basketball just because nothing against high school basketball. It's just for me, I want to be able to study the best of the best. And like unfortunately in high school, there are a lot of like people that like get away with poor decisions just because like, it's still a younger level. Obviously, like if you're watching like, a Dick's Nationals, you know what I mean, on ESPN, you're gonna find some, you know what I mean? But so if you're gonna be watching film, I would go more so towards college and NBA. But it's also understanding, so it's like what you're looking for. So like, for example, I'll tell you right now, if there's one thing that you should start watching, is Villanova. Watch Villanova and how they play off 2 feet. Especially as a junior, you're slowly going to get into college. If you're 6'2", you need to learn how to play off 2 feet. Just because you'll be able to drive, play on balance, be able to not only finish but also kick. So watching college, Villanova is a perfect example of playing off 2 feet. Okay, but again, on Villanova, you're not going to find a guy like Chris Paul that's a leadoff ball screens. So now you've got to go to the NBA level, you know what I mean, to become a better ball screen guy.
Yeah.
Or obviously there'll be a few people in college, but so if you're looking for like, an overall concept, maybe it's something with spacing, something with playing off 2 feet, maybe it's a certain type of offense, you could find that in college. But if you're looking for specific skill sets, you know,
Yeah,
knock
I'm
down
looking for like
shooting.
little things. Like I'm
Yeah,
trying to
so if
build
you
a leg,
yeah,
like I really like master my dribbling a lot. Like I
nice.
dribble like really harder now, and like I did, I can like I have more, like I'm more like lower on my legs, so like I can do like harder moves
Yeah,
and stuff. So like I'm really putting like actually like really hard moves, and I want to try like I want to learn those little things that make the difference. You know what I'm saying?
I gotta
Like
tell
the
you, yeah. So
undercurve can like when you face off like a big man on the 3-point line because they're switching the screen. Like where should it go? And if the front foot is the right one or the left one, like, should it go left or right? You know, those things.
100%, man. 100%. Yeah, you'll find a lot of those details in the NBA. But
All right.
let's keep on moving. Let's keep on moving here. So far we've talked about being a leader. We've talked about understanding your role, and we talked about developing your IQ through film. The fourth thing that now we're gonna dive into is building good habits. And the big point that I want to talk about right here is you're either gonna be all in or all out in wanting to dominate this year. I'll say that again. It's either you're all in or you're all out in wanting to dominate. Because if you're someone that's half in, half out, you're in it sometimes, you're out of it sometimes, you'll never dominate. And I'm talking for the guys that want to have a very, very successful season. You've got to ask yourself, are you all in or are you all out? And the point that I'm trying to make here is we're going to go through a couple of key habits. Here are a couple of key habits I have. I don't know if you guys are taking notes, but having a pre-practice routine, having a post-practice routine. What are you doing for your recovery? Are you sleeping 8+ hours a night? Are you eating healthy? Are you hydrating with 8+ bottles of water a day? Are you scheduling your days to be more productive? Are you having simple habits like this on a day-to-day basis that are going to help you be successful this year? And so we'll go to Ryan. Ryan, I'll bring it to you about building some good habits. But one thing after Ryan talks, I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Just start thinking about some of the key habits you have in your life right now. We'll do a little bit of like a Q&A with that. But habits are going to be huge for you guys, especially if you want to be consistent this year throughout your season. Ryan?
Yeah, habits are huge, man. Obviously, even just beyond basketball too, like your habits kind of make up who you are as an individual. We're talking about things you consistently do that can either make or break you. You know what I'm saying? So I think a good one to start with is like, what time are you showing up for practice? Are you just coming on the court when it's getting ready to start, or are you there 30 minutes before getting shots up and stuff? Stuff like that. Like outside of basketball, like are you on top of everything academically? Are you hanging out with the wrong people? Are you doing things off the court you shouldn't be doing? Obviously, you talked about eating right, sleeping right, staying hydrated. All of that stuff is so important. Like you really got to take being a student athlete seriously. And you got to respect it. It's not something you can just kind of half-ass. Every decision you make, every habit you create, you got to really kind of assess and ask yourself, is this helping me or is this hurting me? And the more habits that you can identify and the answer is this is helping me, then you're definitely on a path to success.
I love that. That right there is money, guys, and I hope you guys took that to heart. And you know what? A coach used to always tell me, same thing that you just said, Ryan, just like you're either getting better or you're getting worse.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? It's either going to help you or it's going to hurt you. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. So every decision you make matters. The decision of you, sleeping a little bit extra or showing up to practice early. You going home right after practice or getting in extra free throws. When you get home, are you just gonna, relax on the couch and do nothing, or are you gonna do some active recovery? Right? Nighttime, are you gonna go out or are you gonna get your full 8 hours of sleep? Are you gonna go eat at McDonald's or are you gonna go have a healthy meal at home? Are you going to go for the soda or are you gonna go for the water? I could hop on this on and on and on again, but if you could build good habits of doing everything the right way, that's what's going to help you be more successful. And the best advice I have for you to do this is just schedule everything out. If it doesn't have to be perfect, but schedule it out. So, for example, schedule out your routines. Schedule out your pre-practice routine. Are you stretching? Are you doing a dynamic warm-up? Are you doing mobility? Are you doing some kind of ball handling warm-up, finishing warm-up, shooting warm-up? Right? That's your pre-practice. Post-practice, what are you doing? Maybe you're stretching, you're taking an ice bath, right? All of these routines that you have, write them down. Same thing of what you want to accomplish throughout the day, right? 8+ bottles of water is bet. Put 8 fucking bottles of water on your damn, table or in your bag and be like, yo, I'm gonna be drinking these throughout the day, right? Put yourself in a position through scheduling, writing it down, putting a system together, because you all have to treat yourself like a professional if you want to get professional like results. And that's the huge key here. So I actually want to, if anyone wants to step up and talk about one habit that has helped them, that would be awesome. Maybe we could start with you, Ryan. If you have one habit that you feel like has been, extremely valuable to you, what would that be?
Reading books.
I love that. Anybody else?
Books.
I have one.
What up?
I remember first time at the camp. After our workout, after camp, I went to Greg, and then I had a workout with him. And then after that, I ate like two Big Mac meal at McDonald's. And then he was like, you eat that shit? I was like, yeah, I'm hungry. And then he was like, no, you gotta stop eating that shit, and you gotta like start cutting and shit, because that shit is not gonna help you. And like soda is only gonna it's only gonna reduce your potential and shit, because like there's a lot of sugar in it and other shit. So I started cutting in that was like August, September-ish. Yeah, August. And then since then I didn't I still eat like McDonald's like once a week, but it was like I never drink soda again. So I guess like that's a good habit I got, and kind of yeah. So I really stopped eating McDonald's, but like sometimes I might get a cone. I'm really hungry, so I might eat some.
Yeah. Listen, you're a freaking kid, right? Right. Like, but you just eliminating a little bit less of it. I'm sure you felt better. I'm sure you're performing better.
Like after you stop drinking soda, you feel like your body's like more loose and like
and that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a great teaching point too. Of like, it doesn't have to be everything. Even with these 5 keys we're talking about, guys, like it's not about like execute all the 5 keys, build every single good habit possible, watch all these players. It ain't about that. All you got to do is take one little detail. Maybe it's within this key of building habits. Find one habit you could eliminate and one habit you could develop. Just doing that small action of finding something new, creating that new idea, executing something different is going to lead to more results. Because I know for me, like, especially looking back, like, I know I keep talking about my college career, but like, I'm kind of, I play now. So like, it's kind of like, I'm part of it, but I've seen my habits grow from high school now to college, right? So like, I remember maybe Ryan, you could talk about your experiences in high school to college to now too, of just like, back in high school, I had a habit of like waking up early, always just having the right habits in my workouts, the right structure, you know what I mean? I had a good recovery, and like, it wasn't perfect back in high school, but it was the foundation that, my habits kept building and building and building and building and building. And now I look back and like, things are starting to come together with me, like basketball wise. And I'm like, man, it was those habits that I started building when I was younger that eventually just stacked up, and now all these habits are part of me that leads to more results. So creating those good habits, eliminating the bad habits now is going to help you all tremendously. If you want to have any closing thoughts on that, Ron.
Yeah, I think when we talk about habits, we're gonna be best served to like when we really form a habit, it becomes something we do without consciously thinking about. So like we want to eventually get to the point where we're doing something long enough that we don't have to like, there's not that battle going on in our brains. Like, oh shit, I kind of want Wendy's, but I know I'm not supposed to eat it. What should I do, man? Should I Should I maybe go to the grocery store and get some food and cook it up? Oh, I should just get the Wendy's, man. It's only like $7 too. It's cheap. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want to just become so consistent with making good decisions that we can eventually eliminate those battles. And listen, we're not saying cut the shit out completely. Like, you just had a good game on a Friday night. You want to celebrate with some Wendy's or something, by all means, go ahead, man. That really isn't going to have much of an effect on you. So I think AL mentioned that in the chat about finding balance. I think that's kind of more what she means. Me and Evan, we're definitely not saying, treat this like you're in the military. You can't do anything like bad, or you know what I'm saying. But you do have to have like kind of a balance to it, where it should be like above like 80% of you're making good decisions, and then maybe like 10% of the time, you're letting your foot off the gas. You're kind of relaxing. You can hang out with friends. You could eat a bad meal here or there. Like, that stuff won't hurt you, as long as for the most part you were making the good decisions.
100%. And also having that 80-20 split of like 80% of the time you're doing all the right things, eating all the right foods. It makes not only that 20%, taste a lot better, feel a lot better, whatever it is, but also like you can use that. I know this is talking a little crazy here, but like you could use that as something that can motivate you as well. So for example, Ryan, you just mentioned about, after a big win, right? You wanted some Wendy's, like use that as a little trigger and motivation point for you. Maybe you set a goal for yourself. We're like, yo, I'm going to get like 10-5 this game. You get 10-5, go enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? Like there's actually ways that you can, use that as a tactic and a tool to motivate you guys to get more results. And it's something that I'm actually been experimenting with a little bit. And it actually works, guys. So having those good habits allows you that flexibility of that 20% to splurge a little bit. But just like Ao mentioned, balance is huge, but part of that balance can come through like a reward system of like, you know what I mean? You always have the good habits in place. You could always use the bad habits, as a reward. There was one more chat. One thing that helped me was to separate myself from people that didn't want the same thing as me. And I had to make that choice to focus on what I want. Jeremy, I absolutely love that, man. I absolutely love that. And I guess we could use that as a little side note here. Yeah, surrounding yourself around the right people, especially during the season 2 to stay locked in, is huge. So Jeremy, I absolutely love that. But if anyone has any questions on building habits, we could close this key and then head into our 5th and final key of that we're going to be going into.
I just want
Okay.
to say something.
Yeah, what's up?
It's just not. I wouldn't even call it a habit. It's just like I'm still struggling with like staying consistent. Like every game in terms of everything, and I'm just still trying to find like that one thing that will just help it click and be every game the same, and not like 2 games good and 1 game bad or something like that. But that's the thing I'm struggling with right now.
What's your number one struggle right now? Boom. Don't even think about it. What's your number one struggle in games?
Probably scoring.
Scoring. Okay. Why do you struggle to score the ball?
Because sometimes I would even say I get intimidated by tall defenders and thinking, because I'm sure I just can't. And like I have the skill set to do it, but sometimes it just doesn't click in the game, especially in games where like it's a tall team and they're pressuring full court, and I get, like intimidated and that type of.
So it's not about intimidation. I think it all comes down to your experience playing against those kind of guys. You know what I mean? I think, yes, we could talk about, the details that go into it. One thing I could say is definitely your ability to change pace is going to be huge. That's something you need to develop. Another thing you need to develop is playing off 2 feet. And another thing is being able to hit a consistent jump shot. So if you fix those 3 things of being able to change pace, play off 2 feet, and hit an open jump shot, scoring will just fall into place. You'll score over 10 points a game. But if you wanted like, more immediate, results, I got to tell you is find someone that's older than you, bigger than you, stronger than you, and have them absolutely destroy you in a workout. Like, I'll point it out right now. I go against Ryan Kennedy every once in a while. He busts my ass. I don't know if you guys see Ryan play. Ryan can hoop. But I got to tell you, coming from, playing a guy like that, back to my college games, the game slows down. The game feels more comfortable. I'm guarding certain dudes, and now I'm just like, they're not as good. So now, from that example, you could kind of see like, okay, you're playing against someone better, more athletic, faster than you, whatever it is. Then you go back to your games, it feels more comfortable. But for you, if you're coming from your practices where you're dominating whatever, nobody's really challenging you the same way it is in the games. Yeah, I don't blame you. I could see why you might feel a little uncomfortable in those games. So playing against elite competition, 100% will help you. Ryan, if you want to add to that at all.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me that really helped me when I was facing like the bigger, stronger, more athletic kids, maybe even the type that'll kind of like get in your face, like try to act all hard and stuff, like was learning how to play physical. Because sometimes like they always say, like, you know, a bully is a bully until he gets punched in the face. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have to learn to play physical. You're going to have to learn to use your off arm. The off arm is one of the biggest things I learned kind of when it was too late. Like I learned this like almost like I learned how to really use my off arm well, like after college. And same thing, like if I'm driving to the hoop, like a lot of kids drive in straight lines instead of like driving and leveraging their weight into their defender and trying to almost like attack to on like a curvilinear line to get inside the block. I think once you can really learn how to play physical, it doesn't even necessarily matter if they're stronger or bigger. Like there's such a thing as just being basketball strong. So even if they have weight and height on you, like you can still be effective throwing your body around if you just are skilled at doing it. So that kind of sounds like one of the main skills you're missing. And we could definitely work on that November 27th.
Yeah.
Yeah, a big addition to that too. I know you're gonna say something, Nathan, but during your season, you can find ways to get stronger, and which will help you play more physical. So, for example, like obviously this is going to come with a lot of planning. It depends on your minute load, whatever, but you should find times within the schedule you're creating for yourself of getting an extra lift in. Maybe it's one time a week, maybe it's twice a week, maybe you could do it more often, but you know that that's your weakness. And like, we already talked about, I touched on a few things, Ryan touched on a few things. If you were to make an action plan for yourself, find days to get into the weight room. Find extra workout time to work on the 2 feet finishing, work on the jump shot, right? Like execute it. You know what I mean? You just got some awesome feedback, Nathan. If I'm you, man, I'm writing it down and I'm executing this starting tomorrow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Evan Muhammad.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So basically, like, I was telling him that from like maybe a couple months ago, and we were like working a lot during the summer and like early September on like certain moves that would like I would use my body, but also would help me score like easier. And like one of them would be like this little like hook. I got like that little hook layup like that he does a lot with his left hand or right hand, like when
Yes.
he's going down the paint over bigs. And like I find that really helpful. And I'm just saying that for all like undersized guards, like that is probably the easiest move to master, and it's so good. Like half my points down the paint are just off that, and it really helps.
I love that. That's good stuff. I saw Jack, you mentioned something in the chat. Jack saw wrote in the chat some of his habits. Dude, I love that. I know Jack, we've had our phone calls together, we've talked about it, but dude, habits are a game changer. Make sure we execute them. And I hope you guys all got a couple of takeaways from that key. But let's do this. We have about, little under 10 minutes left. The fifth and final key I wanted to talk about, and probably is the most important out of all of these keys, is simply staying positive. One thing that you all need to understand, and it's a message that I hope you guys could just take away from this, is there is no perfect situation in high school. There is absolutely none. I've worked with so many players. I've talked to so many players. And I'm sure all of you could attest to this. There is no perfect situation. If you want to pick apart a coach, you want to pick apart a program, you will find things that you don't like. But the point that I'm trying to make here is even if you don't like things, you have to be positive. You have to take away the positives and be like, okay, these are the cards that are in front of me. How can I make the most of it? Because if you want to have a successful season, you can't be thinking about, oh, the coach is this, oh, my teammates are this, because that's out of your control. But what you can control is how you react to it. And that's all about being positive. So a few things to point out is there's no perfect situation, right? There's going to be a ton of ups and downs throughout the season. You're going to have good games. You're going to have bad games. You got to stay positive. And it all comes down to you having a long-term perspective and taking pressure off yourself. Meaning if you're struggling early on in the season and be like, oh, I need to perform, stay positive and have that long-term perspective of saying, yo, you know what? I am struggling right now, but I'm also a sophomore on JV. I've got 2 years left of high school basketball. I'm building towards varsity. These are just growing pains, perspective. So I hope you guys could understand that staying positive will not only make the season more enjoyable, but also just lead to way more results. Because having fun on that court will lead to better performance. Fine?
Yeah, I'm big on mental toughness. I see too many kids who they're like professional excuse makers. You know what I'm saying? Like they could do some wrong, but they will never take accountability for it. They'll blame a coach, they'll blame a teammate, they'll blame a parent, they'll blame anybody but themselves. And one thing I'm big on is just confidence. And confidence comes from preparation, comes from the work you're putting in to prepare for games and stuff. Like it's like the easiest analogy to make is like you're taking a test. Did you study or did you not study? You know, like you can't cheat on game day. You know what I'm saying? There's no one there with at a desk next to you with a pen and a paper. You could just look over and be like, okay, answer to question number 21 is C. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be prepared and you have to be willing to play a game, score 0 points, have like 12 turnovers. You have probably the worst game of your life, and then still go out to that next game and be like, yeah, I'm going for 30 tonight. You know what I'm saying? Can you keep that confidence? That's mental toughness to me. You know what I'm saying? Because it's inevitable that there's going to be adversity, that there's going to be something you weren't prepared for is going to happen. You know, it could be like the list of things we could name right now is endless. So you got to be ready for it all. And it just, the main thing is your mindset has to be bulletproof.
I love that. Does anyone else want to add to this? Want to talk about it at all? Maybe have a situation that, isn't ideal for them, but you're working through it. If not, I could bring up an example. Okay. Here's the one thing that I want to point out, and I think it's maybe it's like one little reoccurring theme that I see with a lot of players, and this might be you. So a lot of players are in a situation where like they're going from freshman to JV to varsity. They're going up the ranks, and as you go up the ranks, competition increases, and minutes become more scarce. And for a lot of players that are fighting for minutes, which is more than half the team is in that position where like they're fighting for playing time. A lot of those players feel like they have to perform right now, right this second, or they're not going to play. And one point that I want to make is a lot of players put pressure on themselves to have to perform every single day, every single second. And that pressure leads to more mistakes. It leads to stress and a lot of unhappiness. And it's a huge negative that you cannot get into. It's a poor feedback loop. If you're a player that's in a situation like that, take away some of the things we just talked about, the mental toughness, the staying positive, the having the long-term perspective of, you know what, I might be struggling this year. Maybe I'm not getting the minutes I want this year, but I'm building towards next year and eventually my college career. If you're in a situation where you're fighting for minutes, which I'm sure at least one of you are, you got to take the pressure off and you got to have fun through that process. Because like Ryan mentioned, and I'm so happy you mentioned that, Ryan, it's like, it is inevitable that you're going to be faced with that adversity. You might have the worst game of your life. You might have a couple of terrible practices, Worst case scenario, you might lose some minutes. But it's, what is this teaching me? How is this a part of my process? Because if you're keeping that long-term perspective through that, you're only going to continue to grow. You're only going to continue to get better, and you're only going to continue to build to inevitably reach your full potential as a player. Any last thoughts on that, Ryan? And then I could maybe tie this all together.
I'm good, man. Tie it all together.
Cool. All right. So let's tie this all together real quick. So key number one, we talked about being a leader, right? What is a leader? A leader sets a tone. A leader is positive. A leader is the floor general. A leader communicates with his coaches. A leader leads by example. A leader is someone that every single day steps up and says, we are going to win we are going to win the day. We are going to win this game. We are going to win this game. How am I going to step up as a leader for my team? And it's a hard job, but it's a great job to have because every team needs a leader. Key number two, understanding your role. Are you a scorer? Are you a defender? Are you a spot-up shooter? Are you a bench player that just needs to make your starters better? Whatever your role is, work on your role, be a star within that role. Because if you could understand your role, work towards your role, continue to build, that's how you're going to provide value to a team. Key number three, develop your IQ through film. So we talked about watching the highlights of the people that play in your role. It's about learning from your game film with the system we talked about, the positives, the negatives, the goals for next game, all those little statistics that you could follow. It's also preparing for other teams through film so that your IQ and decision-making could be on point. Watching that film is going to be huge for you guys. Key number four, building good habits. We talked about developing routines, pre-practice, post-practice. We talked about recovery. We talked about sleeping 8+ hours. We talked about eating healthy, hydrating, right? Scheduling out your days. All those good habits are what? Building your foundation to eventually help you not only have success this season, but throughout the rest of your career. Then the fifth and final key we talked about is staying positive, right? It's a long season, right? There's going to be some ups and downs. You're going to be faced with some adversity, but how are you going to stay positive and how are you going to take the lesson from it, turn that negative into a positive with that long-term perspective of eventually you being the best player you want to be? Those are the 5 keys. And the big takeaway point here is all 5 of these keys are in your control. Yes, we could have talked about, spacing, and we could have talked about, the 2-foot finishing, and all these different, details of the game that will help you be more successful. But think about the 5 keys we just talked about. Being a leader, understanding your role, watching film, building good habits, and staying positive. You're in control of all 5 of those keys. And if you could execute that every single day and continue to reinforce these good habits within your game, without question, you're going to have a successful season, because whether you play well, whether you play bad, you're going to realize that everything you're doing this season is building towards your future. And if you could keep that mindset going of executing these 5 keys and continuing to develop as a player and understanding that this is all part of your process, you are going to have a very successful season this year. That's it for me. Ryan, if you want to have any closing remarks.
Yeah, listen, I think over the last hour, Ev, you've done a tremendous job of just giving these kids a lot of valuable stuff, man. So what I'll say about that is take everything you've learned in the last hour and get to applying it tomorrow. Don't wait. We're in season right now. And that was the whole point of this conversation together, was to get on the same page about what we need to do to make sure that this is the best season possible. So I'm big on note taking. I'm big on preparation. I'm big on, obviously, like I said, mindset. I want everyone here to take a lot of inspiration from this and just get started tomorrow. As far as what do I need to do film wise? What do I need to do on the court wise? What can I do better to be a better teammate? The list goes on and on. But get started tomorrow. Do something. I'm sure you, off the top of your heads, you can all think of at least one thing you can do tomorrow to make your season a little better, to make yourself a little more valuable to your team. So let's get on it, man.
I appreciate that, Ryan. awesome insight always. I think you just hit it right on the money, man. Take away at least one thing, guys. You know,
Yeah.
there's a ton of different concepts. Take away at least one thing. Even when the Zoom call's over, maybe you have a little bit of a brain dump. You just take out a damn piece of paper and you just brain dump everything we did. You know, I'll probably end up sending out a link so that maybe if you guys wanted to review some of this stuff, but take some of this, man, and execute it. Because, you know, this is information I didn't have in high school. This is information Ryan didn't have in high school. And like, if you guys really could execute everything we're talking about, you are going to be successful this year. I guess we could leave with, if anyone has any final questions, we could address that. But we could wrap this up.
Just stay tough, y'all. If you have any coaches out there that are, you know, like, listen, what you got to understand too is not every coach is a good coach. You know what I'm saying? Not that I want to like say anything bad about coaches or have players thinking that it's okay to not listen to them or something. But, you know, if you have a coach that tends to be very negative and, you know, maybe doesn't encourage what you like to do on the court, just keep doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Find kind of that middle ground where you can do your thing. Like, don't ever get discouraged because a coach is hard on you or any of that stuff. That's all just tying back to the mental toughness. I just kind of wanted to add that.
I love that. And 100%. And even to add that as well is just like controlling what you can control. If you could control the 5 keys that we talked about, even if you're in a tough situation like Ryan just mentioned, you could still have a very successful season. 100%. But I appreciate all of you guys coming down. I hope you guys had, you know, you guys got a lot of value from this. As always, you have my social media at Evan Sirakas or at NYC Hoop School. You can send me a DM. I would love to hear your feedback from this. If you guys want to give us any feedback, or if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out. And you also have Ryan Kennedy. Make sure you follow him on Instagram. He's been posting awesome content at Grind City Training, to reach out to him as well. But other than that, we will be closing up this Zoom call, guys. I appreciate all of you for coming down. Just a heads up, we will be having another event. So if any of you guys are in New York, we have an upcoming event coming in about 2 weeks. We'll be sending out some more information on that. And I wish you all the best season possible, man. We're here for you guys. And all I can say is execute. Execute the 5 keys we talked about, and you will have a successful season. Appreciate you guys. You guys have a good night.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, guys. You guys have a good one.
Thank you.
Peace, guys.
You too, Evan. Peace.
All right. Have a good one. Have a good one.